All right. Hi, folks. Wes Allen with DM Tales, and I am back at actually the lunchtime skipping lunch because we've been doing it in the evening time. It's always lunchtime somewhere on Earth. Um, yes, but now we are here, and I'm here in my typical lunchtime spot, and I am here with someone today. I'm not even going to bother because I was running all my ads for EcclesiaCon this weekend. March 28th through 30th, Palmyra, New Jersey. Come and run games. And for Crit, I always forget, it was community run infinite tabletop coming up in June. And I forget whatever else I had on there. But please go check out all those cool things. I want to get to my guest. Here is one Matthew, professionally, Matthew Orr of What Ain't Games. How are you?
Hey, Wes. I'm doing great.
And thanks for coming on today.
Yeah. You know, I teed this up right before you said it. Matthew is my name. It didn't take up enough space on the book when we first published our book. And so like Matt Orr is only 7 letters long. And so I expanded it out with some extra, my full name. So I look more impressive on the cover of my book. That's the for real reason why I go by.
Yep. We froze. Uh-oh. We froze as soon as we start. We'll wait till he comes back. It'll catch up. Uh-oh, now we lost him. This is fun. And now we're back. There you go.
I can see you.
I got you back.
Or I can see me.
It came back. So yeah, I actually had that drilled into my head by my mother. Like whenever you are like doing something professional, you use your full name, your middle initial, and your last name. So like if I'm ever doing like a full thing, it's like Wesley T. Allen. And I'm just like, that is so pompous. And yet I still do it no matter what, it's always been interesting. We're going to talk about the company in a little bit. King Eric, if you look at the chat, King Eric, the greatest of all, wants to know what happens when the ink dries. But we'll talk about the game with the company in a little while. But we want to start with some and also, are you related to Bobby Orr? King Eric is one of my favorite commenters because he just like will go off at left field and my ADHD brain will go like, let me look over at the shiny things. We're going to start with, gosh, he's froze again. Oh no, this is going to be a fun interview because he completely dropped off this time. Let's see what happens. So we'll wait for Matthew to come back. There he is again. I know you completely dropped off that time. But you're soon coming back onto the stream, I'm sure. Let's see what happens. Everything worked fine until we decided to go live, which is what always happens. Let me see what happened here, because I think I lost your video. Oh, there you are. Now you're back. So this is fun. I promise you, I've been having good luck in the afternoon. Something's happening during the day. All right, so let's talk about it. I like to start off the stream with some get to know you questions, because I always thought, and there you go again. You just keep popping in and out. I don't know if it's my internet or your internet. What's going on? So folks, let me know if you can still see me. So he entered the dark zone. Yes, Kink. Yes, Eric, he did. T is not for Tiberius. My middle initial is Todd. So how you doing? You can hear me? I don't think he can hear me. Can you hear me? He can't hear me. Oh no. The wonders of doing live stream technology. He's typing to me now. Watch this. We're going to publicly comment in chat.
Re-enable my mic. I'd never.
Well,
disabled my mic.
the headphones. There's too much winning on the internet. It's causing glitches.
My mic is still picking up.
Yeah, mic is picking up.
The headphones?
Headphones. You can't hear me, right? Hello?
I can unplug stuff and see. Does this change anything?
Can you hear me?
I don't know.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Permissions are
Hi.
looking right on my end.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you,
That's all
but I can't. Maybe hit refresh. Ripping entertainment. We have people watching. Oh, this stinks.
We can hear you. Can you re-able your mic? We can hear you.
Yeah.
Weird. Like I said, I seem to still be connected.
Yeah.
Here.
But you can't hear me, right? Okay, let me refresh my page.
What is happening?
Oh no, I lost you. Okay. So now I've lost. There he comes back. All right, can you hear me?
I can.
Now I can't hear you.
You can. This is where we started.
Oh, wait, no. I have my headphones off. I can hear it. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I can hear. Okay, let's get the start. Let's get this going before things. I refreshed my page, so always use. Okay, we're having fun with chat because everybody's like, use semaphore flags. So
well, there's no vision. There was no audio either, or visual either.
You couldn't see me. Oh, okay, because we could hear and see you.
You were gone. I was still connected to Ninja, but you weren't connected. I didn't see you connected. So
that is so weird. So now I'm hearing an echo. So you're probably not on headphones. But let's get to this. Worked for 10 minutes before we streamed. No problem. We were having a blast. It's always happens. So let's talk a little bit. Getting into the interview, I always love to talk to people about their kind of connection to the hobby space because it's such a wild, a cool hobby, but it's very different. So how did you first kind of get connected to this hobby?
I mean, first, is uncertain, right? I remember I had the TSR Marvel Superheroes game as a child, which
Oh
my
yeah,
dad
I
and I
love that.
tried to play, and it was sort of incomprehensible because neither of us really had a context for it.
Okay.
Which that's the mystery. Like, how did I want this and then get this with having no context? I have no idea. Um, Years later, after I'd played some Super Nintendo JRPGs, then I basically did that with my friends in like the picnic area of our like apartment complex.
Okay.
Like had the map. Was making a map, and they were like, "There's like it was very text-based adventure inspired, right? Where it's like, okay, you can go north, south, east, or west. They're like, let's go west, and then I would draw a little swamp in the like grid and be like, now you're in the swamp, and they're like, let's I don't know, let's find this thing, and I would roll some dice and be like, okay, there's in my I'm like creating. If it comes up as a 6, you're going to get attacked, but otherwise you're fine, and I would roll the dice, and I'm like, you find swamp stuff, and they're like, great, and let's
Oh
go
wow.
south now, and then I would draw like more swamp, or I would draw a
We just don't have a good connection today. So
if you can still hear me, I'll continue my story.
yes,
But
I can still hear you.
that's playing around with the stuff
That's
like
pretty
that is
wild.
just sort of always in my background. And then it wasn't too much later before like I think by high school. By high school, I had discovered other people that were like that, and really started playing role-playing games with like we made characters, we met regularly, we had adventures, we got experience points, all those things that are, it wasn't all just us LARPing our way through the most recent Final Fantasy that I'd played.
That's so cool, though. I mean, that probably is the most unique introduction to the hobby that I've heard from anybody that had on the channel at this point. Because it just like
Yeah,
we had the like first off, your first game that you owned was TSR Marvel Superheroes.
yeah, and I had forgotten about it the first until I went to my house once, or my parents' house, and I was like, oh wait, I did have games before, because I used to tell the story that paper grid
Uh-huh.
role-playing experience, that was my first game. I used to tell that story, and then I would like, wait, but I did have the older box and like
Oh, that's
all
so
that stuff. So
wild.
yeah.
I loved that game. Flat out just loved Marvel Superheroes. I thought that was great. I was a huge
Well,
Marvel fanboy, so that was my fun place.
as a fourth grader, I was about fourth grade. I could not put phase rip into my brain and understand what that meant. So
Gotcha.
I, other people I've heard other people had a lot of fun with it, but I never really played it.
So
I just kind of
I collected because it was pre-internet and there were no other nerds around. So I just collected all the books. So I was that sorry person, and I didn't have a clue about solo play. So you've got your first introduction. I love that you were just running games. It's like we're just making stuff up and we're going left and right. That's great. So now you've been in the hobby for a while. If you are playing a game or running a game, what's your favorite genre that you like to run or play?
I'm really drawn to mysteries.
Okay.
And I kind of stick a mystery into just about anything that I'm trying to play. I don't know. I think I like that. I've read the noir stuff.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of especially like not. I've read some noir stuff, but like I also really like noir pastiches. So like we're gonna do. Like, I'm sure Lackadaisy is like it's a comic, but it's like everybody's a cat, right? But so
Okay.
it's gangsters and bootleggers and like high drama and stuff like that, but everybody's cats. It's a comic book.
Gotcha.
um and anyway, I like the pastiche element. So if it's like it's not just like sad smoking men in trench coats, but it's like and they're on the moon, or it's
Okay.
or it's like you know
And off we go again.
like
You're back.
I can still see and hear you.
You are
So
back. we're having problems with coming from your end for some reason, but we're good. Just
mm,
keep, if there's a break, I will just wait. It happens. So, but you like mystery
yeah.
but like noir in the moon. I just think that's
Oh,
hysterical.
sure, sure. Any sort of unusual noir mix, I like. You know,
I it's kind of, that would be really kind of a cool idea, or like noir superheroes, like something bizarre would be kind of
well,
fun.
sure. I mean, sure. I mean, like the best episode of one of the best episodes of Batman the Animated Series is where they bring in the like old noir show, you know, Grey Ghost
Oh
and that
yeah.
kind of stuff. So, like, yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was also a superhero, but from an older generation, right? A
Yes.
TV show superhero, right? But from, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when does Batman the Animated Series take place? Because they've got 1940s fashion and also laser guns. So,
Yes.
you know,
And Cray computers and all that sort of thing. Yes. Yeah, it was always kind of interesting to me. King Eric wants to know if you liked the old Endless Adventure D&D books.
D&D is actually a big blind spot for me because I played third edition in college
Okay.
and I've played fifth edition when it was newish, and that's
Okay.
it. Like D&D is not a huge thing that I've not played a lot of D&D. So no, I don't even know what those are. Sorry,
You have
King
impressed me
Eric.
even more. So it's basically it's choose your own adventure, but it's D&D. So I
Mm,
did have those as a kid. So
yeah.
if you are, and I am like D&D blind spot, much respect. Um, if you were at a table, would you
It's
rather be the GM or a PC?
I mean it depends. I think I really like a game where where there's a lot of creativity given to the players
Okay.
and that role like I'm very excited to add stuff to a narrative or to try stuff as a character. And so I
Hmm.
really like a game that allows for a lot of that,
Okay.
which is then really fun is then I don't have to like decide what the consequences of that is. That's the GM's job.
Uh-huh.
So I think in that kind of a game, I want to be a player with a GM that's running that kind of a game because then, you know, it, those things where and a good GM does this anyway, no
Right.
matter what system you're playing. Like, oh, you tell me how that looks, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
games that are like, you know, they invite like, or they have like a sometimes there'll be a move built in or something like that about like, oh, do you know somebody that does this? And we're like, yes, I know this guy, and this is how we know each other, and he lives over here. And they're like, great, you go there. And
Yeah.
then like I've added all that fiction to the table, and then you know,
It's fun when you get
it's
to make the
fun.
GM have to take notes. We're doing this. Okay, I got to
Yeah.
write all this down now and come back. That's one thing that I love about Sentinel Comics RPG. It's
Mm.
superheroes, but the the powers are, here's your power. What's it look like? I don't know. Like you tell
Yeah, you
me.
decide.
You tell me what it looks like.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so, uh, what are some of the games in the past year, like calendar year, so the last 12 months, that you've either been a player or a GM for?
I mean,
Highlights for me. Give me a couple.
unfortunately, I'm in the many people in the industry read and think about games, but don't actually play games very often. Um, in the last calendar year, let's see. Okay, so about a year, I'm going to hype up my friend here.
Okay, cool.
He's because this game came out on crowdfunding now. It's on crowdfunding right now. It's called Veil of the Failed and Fallen.
Ooh,
But I was in a playtest group for it last year. I mean, literally about a year ago.
cool.
But it's exactly what I was talking about, where it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game,
Uh huh.
and it is about being in a fantasy realm. And there's a whole list of like different denizens of the realm, like the lobster people and the people with the huge ears and like the witches of the woods and maybe they're centaurs or whatever.
Okay.
But and there's all these like locations that you can go to, like the bones of the behemoth and the crystal, the singing plains and the crystal caverns and all this stuff. But none of that; those are all just names. There's no other definitions of any of that kind of stuff. So like
Hmm.
anytime any of that stuff comes up, it's like, well, you tell us what that is, and it's like, great, I'm ready to jump in with that, and then the sort of the plot of the game is that you were children in this fantasy realm, sucked in from Earth,
Okay.
and you tried to save it. You fought the big Lord of Darkness, and you failed, and one of you died, and then you got ejected from the realm. And then, like, was it a dream? Was it a whatever? You tell yourself whatever it was, and you've grown up.
Okay.
Boom. Now you're summoned back as adults, and you're meeting each other for the first time again, and you've reclaimed your relics, which it's a PBTA thing. So
Right.
like you have your playbook, which is your relic, and I played the Shadow, which has a cloak of darkness, and you can hide in the shadows and go into the Shadow realm and see the undead and all kinds of cool stuff.
Cool.
But that's like, especially during the playtest, we were figuring out the rules where it's like, ooh, can I do this in the Shadow realm? And like, sure, I don't know, find out, and so it was very, obviously it's not necessarily the exact experience of everyone who's going to play, because I was playing with the designer during the development of the game.
Right.
But furthermore, like all those things, those fantasy things that you created, right? You make a PBTA style roll to see how they fared in the intervening period, and they all may be dead now. Like you invented those wonderful memories of like going and dancing with fairies on the crystal plains, and like, sorry, they dug it up. That's what happens when you lose in a fantasy world. Like they dug all that up, and it's like the housing estate for the orc army now, or whatever.
It's like Narnia gone wrong almost. Kind of.
Absolutely. Okay. That is literally what it is. And so you're back again to try and save it. But like, because of the way that it's set up with these sort of like anchors, but they're undefined, it's like, it's exactly what I love, what I was just telling you about, like that kind of game where you get to, the players are very much involved in defining the world and then hurting their own psyches by describing how awful things have gotten for the wonderful things that they imagined the first time around.
It's good, clean fun. It's like you failed, and here's everything that happened because you stank at your job.
Yeah, but you can save it at this time.
It's you can go back and redo it. So there's a little bit of catharsis in it. That's very nice. No, I love that concept. That's PBTA. It fascinates me the hobby is a very wide space anyway.
Absolutely.
But it fascinates me how there are people who love that style of play, and there are people who cannot stand that style of play. And there's nobody in the middle going, yeah, I kind of like that. It just, because people who do not like it just do not, like, no, there's no rules. I go send me to a game with rules. I don't want to do this. And then the people who are into it just like, yeah, I don't want to go over and I don't want to add a plus 53 modifier to a roll. I want to roll my 2d6 and have fun. It's really kind of bizarre.
It is. Yeah. And, PBTA, Powered by the Apocalypse, is definitely not even as narrative of a game as you can get. There are things that go even harder into the, like, everyone's a player and we're telling the story together, and here's a suggestion of like the theme, and that's about it. And I'm definitely drawn more toward that, even though I started with things like, well, I mean, really, the FASERIP box, and then the first I mentioned that I haven't played a lot of D&D, but the game that was my game that we played throughout high school and middle school was all the Palladium stuff. My trajectory has been, from FASERIP and Palladium to indie games, solo games, PBTA in there. So that's.
I love it. One of the things that I like is Land of Eam has recently come out, and it's a D12 game, but it's basically based off of the old NPC reaction table from EX D&D. Because it's like a PBTA style. It's like you roll and there's certain levels of reaction to it, but the numbers all basically match what was in that original BX D&D from back in the 80s. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all the reaction table. It's great.
It's the reaction table as a game.
And they based an entire game on it for every roll. So, but you've been now at Wedding Games for a little bit. We're going to talk about the company in just a sec. But before you got to Wedding Games, you helped found the company, right? What other projects had you worked on? Because this is not your first hurrah inside the TTRPG industry.
I mean, yeah. So my business partner in this endeavor is Brandon Ayton, and he's the one who I from middle school, right? Like in middle school, he had the I heard a rumor that this kid named Brandon Ayton had a book that you could do TTRPG Ninja Turtles. And so that's why I went and hung out with Brandon for the first time. Um, and we didn't actually make characters and never actually played TMNT, but you know, he continued. I mean, he's who I played riffs with in high school and stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
So we were playing games together, and then in college he did his summer internships at Palladium
Okay.
when he was he got to do that for a couple of years when he was in college, and then he started writing for them, working stuff for them, and then at some point he was like, "Hey Matt, you and I should do something together." So my first credit in the industry is a supplement in one of the Rifters, which is their quarterly magazine,
Uh-huh.
for the game Splicers that Brandon and I wrote together. Splicers is like one of the wildest games that Palladium ever published. It's like it's a Terminator world where like
Okay.
the machine rules everything, and you can't touch any metal, or the nanites will kill you.
Oh gosh.
So everything has to be biological. So you've got the wildest, like it's an eye, but it concentrates solar energy to fire laser beams out of it, and it looks like a gun.
Oh, we lost you again. You're coming back.
The beasts are all, everything's alive. All the weapons are alive. So
That's
you
so
can't touch any
cool.
metal. Yeah, it's a great setting, and it's again talking about like being such a crunchy sort of person in my earlier
Uh-huh.
career. Like that is, we were playing that game, and we played it for years. Like campaign went on for years. It's the longest campaign that I've ever played was a Splicer campaign. So we were making content for it, and
Oh, that's
that's my
cool.
first publication with Brandon, and we did some other work for Palladium, and then I met other designers. I worked the second company I have something published with was uh, I published something for. Well, I discovered Apocalypse World,
Okay.
Apocalypse Prevention Inc. Sorry, I'm much more used to saying Apocalypse World than
Uh-huh.
Apocalypse
Uh-huh.
Prevention Inc. That's from Third Eye Games, Eloy Lasanta. And I didn't actually end up writing for API. I ended up writing for Part Time Gods,
Okay.
and it's a few other things sprinkled in here and there. But that's my first publication was with Palladium, and basically Brandon and I wanted to do weirder things than or not necessarily weirder, but we wanted to do things that Palladium didn't want to publish, and so we were like, well, if we want to do them, we have to do them ourselves. So that's why we started Wet Ink Games almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah, this is
So
your
we
10th
declared
anniversary.
that we were going to be a company.
It's pretty cool. And it's really neat that you've basically been hanging out since middle school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've just kept going on. Is Splicer still available? Can you get it anywhere?
Yeah, I'm sure you can get it. They keep it in print,
Okay.
and I think there's a second book for it as well.
Awesome.
You can definitely get it digitally if you can't get it in print.
Okay.
We were at Gamma Expo, this is more industry talk
Yes.
for you industry heads. Gamma Expo is a big business to business for games convention, and I teased them. Well, at the Palladium booth, we went and visited, and I teased them that they didn't have splicers on the shelf. Like, I mean, where's the splicers here? And they're like, it's in the catalog. They'll find it in the catalog, But
There you go.
it's not their most popular title, which is why they left it at home, I guess.
I mean, that just sounds so wonderfully weird and wild. Something's weird when it's weirder than TMNT, which I had a possum that I created that had an eye patch with the personality of Nick Fury back in the day. So that was always a good time.
Yeah.
But it's your 10-year anniversary. You kind of told the story of how this Wet Ink Games company came to be, which I thought was really cool. When you started the company, though, what was your goal in starting it? Like, why break out? Was it just because you wanted to make these more off the wall games that you couldn't get published elsewhere, or was there another goal that you guys had in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both and, right?
Okay.
We had we had talked, Brandon and I, about possibly opening a board game cafe, and we were very, very casually looking into like what even would that entail,
Okay.
because at the time, uh, you know, we had we were just playing board games together all the time, playing role playing games together.
Uh-huh.
You know, we had what we called family descent night, which was where like my wife and Brandon and his wife, who it this is further like it's Brandon married my sister, so like
Oh,
it's
okay.
literally family game night, and so the four of us, and then sometimes some other people like cousins would be in town, or one of our good friends was in town. Like we would play, we would have a fifth player to play Descent, and we would play Descent as like a family unit, you know. And so we were
Okay.
talking about what are we going to do in games, what can we do in games, and like I said, we had talked about doing the a board game cafe, and like there's so much learning there, and it seems riskier, and
Yeah.
you can't with a role playing game company, especially because crowdfunding exists.
Mm-hmm.
You can take pretty unrisky situation, right? So
Okay.
you go out to, and this is not really the way Kickstarter doesn't usually work this way now, but in 2015 when we launched our first Kickstarter, it was like basically we had a couple pieces of art and an idea, and we were
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, anybody wanted to pay us money to make this? And enough people said yes that we spent 2 years doing that
Okay.
as purely as a hobby. You know, like part of the reason why it took 2 years is because it's harder to make a book than we thought. It was a big book. Also, we were only doing it as like a hobby thing.
Okay.
Um, and so our even though 2015 is when we started incorporated as a company and all that and ran our first Kickstarter, like we didn't deliver our first product until 2017. So we're a couple of years away from like the anniversary or the 10-year anniversary of our first game.
Gotcha.
Um, but
What
I
what
don't know if
was
that, I
what
actually
was
got
the
around to
first
answering
game?
your question.
What was the first game? You kind of showed. You kind of did a little bit. What was the first
Uh,
game that you
our
published?
our first game is called Wild Skies.
Okay.
It is definitely showing our TMNT roots because it is an anthropomorphic game.
Okay.
You will play an animal, um, but the setting is 1930s Europe after World War One ended with like 100 different separate pieces rather than one large piece.
Okay.
So all the political boundaries are different. Um, uh, you know, and we just made up a bunch of fake history and then put characters in there, like everything from, you know, the just ridiculous stuff that can only happen in like a pulpy diesel punk kind of setting. So like when the Russian Revolution broke out, the Bear Czar got in his flying wing, and he's been airborne for 30 years, like just flying around avoiding the revolution, and like the war continues on the ground, and like, you know, the Bear Czar flies over every once in a while and everybody salutes him or whatever, but
Oh my
like
gosh.
he's it's it's ridiculous. He just lives in the giant, it's like a palace as a flying wing. And then we decided that it would be really funny if we bring in some like some themes. So like basically we mashed up like what if 1984 and Wind in the Willows had a baby, and so it's like the hegemony, and it's run by Big Badger, and you know, it's like it's 1984. UK is 1984,
Oh my
but
gosh.
it's the hegemony, because it's the hedgerow common and all that kind of stuff from things like Wind in the Willows and
Uh-huh.
uh, uh, the Watership Down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we just mixed up a bunch of fun alternate history ideas, and then you get this sort of layer on top, which is like also everyone's an animal. So like you want to be like a sexy you know, femme fatale type person, but what if you're also a skunk? Hilarious, you know. um you know, you want to be the ball turret gunner, but you're a giant elephant. Hilarious, you
Sure.
know.
Go right ahead. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I mean
awesome.
it's just, yeah, it's just ridiculous pulp
I
like seriousness, but also comedy, and it's real brutal, and you know,
I've seen some of the covers of the books, and they just look
yeah.
totally bizarre off the wall. Do you ever explain in the game why everybody's an animal, or is it just everybody's just an animal?
I think there might be a little side box that just says like, suffice it to say that everyone has always been an animal.
Okay.
There's no, it's not a mutant situation. There's no, it's like the pyramids were built by cats. Napoleon was a lobster, like whatever. It doesn't matter. Like human history is basically the same, except everyone's always been an animal. That's
I
sort
want to
of
see Napoleon as a lobster. I just think that would be very, very good. Do you have a question from King Eric? Can you make an Animal Farm Lord of the Rings mashup game?
Can I? Sure.
Yeah, it's your next Kickstarter coming
Uh,
out. So,
right. It's a
um,
good mashup.
that's actually a really good mashup.
Some animals or some rings are more equal than others.
Yes, sounds perfect. And one of them is more important than everybody. So you have not stayed put because you've got a whole bunch of products. Can you kind of even guess the top off the top of your head how many different games that What Ink Games publishes right now?
Oh, I mean, it's about, I mean, games
Yeah,
or is about a dozen.
it's a pretty wide
Um,
catalog.
yeah, and then some of the games have more than one book, so it's
Right.
more like 25 books that are sort of in our current repertoire.
Yep. And you guys cross genre. So you had the really weird um, anthropomorphic 1930s creatures. I think the game folks most know you for is Never Going Home, which I actually have on the shelf here,
Yeah,
um,
that's definitely been our kind of flagship for a while.
which is a while. I can talk about that forever. Um, but then you have Hecking Good Doggos.
Hmm.
What's the other one? Psychic Kids.
Psychic
You have
Kids.
a new one coming
We
up for
did.
cats too, right?
Actually,
Okay.
this is timely because that launches tomorrow. So
Yay!
the family friendly game of cats doing cat stuff is going to launch tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm kind of a dog guy. I
Yeah,
don't like cats, but that's okay.
it's fine. There are other people who like
I
cats.
said
Doggos is for you, and
I like
OMG
them.
Cats is for cats.
Yep,
For cats people.
we're good. I love the title for it. But you have like, was there a deliberate thing you wanted to get the whole swath of maturity
I
levels
mean,
at the game, or was it just kind of accidental?
yeah. I mean, it's both and. I
Okay.
mean, when you've done the Never Going Home, I think attracted some people to come to us and pitch games. I mean, been, if Never Going Home hadn't been the success that it was, then Banana Chan and Senfung Lim would not have come to us with Zhangshi,
Okay.
which we ended up co-publishing with Banana's company. I think that came out in 2021,
Hmm.
but we talked in 2019 when right when Never Going Home was released and stuff like that. So when you've got something that is making a splash, then people are coming to talk to you. So there's
Hmm.
that. And so it's not planned in that respect.
Okay.
But then in other respects, it is planned because like we wanted to have the family friendly game because you walk up to the table and so we got like gritty 30s shoot 'em up.
Hmm.
We got gritty 20s shoot 'em up. We got creepy 1920s racism is the real monster game.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And it's like, the dads that are there are like great, but then like the tiny little 6-year-old kid is like, what's here for me? And it's like, oh, don't even, no son, don't even look
Don't
at
look
this
at
book.
this. Yeah, keep walking.
um so as it's a natural, we want to cynically business wise, it's like we want to sell something to everybody that walks up. So
Sure.
like we made strategic choices in that respect to like, let's do the family friendly one now. Okay, so that's a thing we do now. So we've got a couple family friendly games.
Cool.
We pitched we were the same thing with board games, which is our second board game is in manufacturing now.
Okay.
Should be available for con season in 2025. But we did one. I mean, it's the second one we've done. We've decided to start doing board games as well
Okay.
because there are people who walk up to the table and they look at your stuff and they say, what are these books? And they're like, these are game books, role-playing games. And they're like, what is that? And you're like, well, we can't sell anything to you if all we have is role-playing games. So
Okay.
we are, again, deliberately expanding our offerings
Mm-hmm.
in order to try to be able to sell something to everyone that comes through at a convention.
Gotcha.
And that is, I mean, it is no longer a hobby. I mentioned like it starting as a hobby for us, and it is definitely no longer a hobby. Like we want to succeed as a company,
Mm-hmm.
and broadening our offerings seems to be a way. It's what we're trying to do with that anyway.
But I mean, you're not just putting out slop. Like
I hope not.
yeah,
I
no,
hope
I mean
not.
these are like they're games that you guys like. I mean, Hacking Doggos didn't he that got an award for one of the best
It
RPGs, right?
the quick start version of it received a nomination
Okay,
as for best free product. So
gotcha.
it is yes is
It's
the
an
answer to your
award
question, but
nominated TTRPG. It's a really
yeah,
cool idea. If folks want to buy your games, someone's like, "You're doing skipping lunch during lunchtime for a change." Yes, Mage's Musing, as I am. Um, if folks want to buy your products, where can they buy them?
so you can go to Drive Through RPG, which is where you can get them all digitally. Basically,
Hmm.
everything we've ever done is there.
Okay.
Um, some of the stuff that we have done in partnership with Feral Indie is also available at itch.io.
Okay.
You can get it there. If you want the same printed copies that we sell at conventions, pretty much everything is at Indie Press Revolution.
Hmm.
So that is, if you order it from there, you'll get it. And if you want to, also, we like to support the friendly local game stores, like here in Louisville, where we are at. A lot of our stuff is at a game store called Golden Keep Game Company. They're great. They stock our stuff. Other places, again, just having been at Gamma, we know some stuff went to Idaho, and some stuff went to Colorado, and some stuff went to Atlanta, and
Hmm.
we're in stores as well, and they can of course get it from IPR, and we're in a couple other little distribution places. So I mean, your
Cool.
friendly local game stores can get our stuff
So
as well.
they can order it if they don't see it, they can definitely
Mhm.
order it and have it
it,
shipped,
it can be ordered for sure. Yeah,
which is good. Love Indie Press Revolution. They do some just awesome stuff. So really
I
glad
mean
that you guys are there.
it's yeah, it's definitely an important stepping stone in the industry. A lot of, you know, like basically so many people are there
Hmm.
because you want to get in, and they'll they're not you don't have to have the volume, right?
Right. Which is very
That
nice.
other distribution outlets need
Yeah, you need
to make sense of
60,000
it.
copies. No, I don't. I can't afford to do that right now.
Yeah, right. I printed 300. You can have 100 of them.
That's how I got my Raccoon Sky Pirates was through Indie Press Revolution at PAX
Oh
Unplugged.
gosh,
What a
yeah.
funny game. I love that game.
I yeah, it's great. We did a raccoon game that is also currently in manufacturing that will again be out for con season this year.
Cool.
But Chris Sellers did Raccoon Sky Pirates, and we had to be like, Chris, you got to write a special extra thing for our our game because Raccoon Sky Pirates was so fun.
Oh,
And
it's
so
so great. I fell out of the sky. Someone stole my stuff and jumped out of the sky ship, and so I had my one last roll to see what I did, and I just basically spammed it and died. Like I just plummet out trying to find my. I think they stole the blender from me. I'm like, I'm going for my blender, and just like splatted on the ground. It was such a great ending to the adventure. Um,
that sounds like Raccoon Sky
it was
Pirates.
perfect. So what Wedding Games is known for is your plus one system,
Mm.
which is a rather unique system. Can you, folks might not be familiar with it. Can you take a couple of minutes
Okay.
just to describe how the system works and why you've designed
Yeah.
it the way you did?
Yeah. So the way it works is the way it has come to work is it is the pitch is the dice are always the same and the cards are always different.
Okay.
So it uses a D6 dice pool system for skill rolls. So you've got training and skills, you've got attributes. You start with a dice pool equal to your training, so that could be 0 or it could be 7. Well, probably not 7. That'd be very very unusual. More like 3 or 4,
Right.
2, 3, whatever. you start with your training and your skills, and then you can manipulate those skills based on your attributes. So if you're more of a brawny sort of character, you have, say, 6 brawn, you can manipulate every single die pool that uses brawn 6 times. So you can add more dice, you can add more pips, you can re-roll, and you can even roll skills that you aren't even trained in, right? So those are so you're always plus oneing up your dice pool roll, which is why we called it the +1 system, with your attributes. So if you only got 2 smarts and you don't have any training in like cryptic, you're probably not going to succeed on your roll. But if you didn't train in athletics, but you've got 5 brawn, you could buy athletics, buy some dice, make a roll, make a 4 into a 5. You might still succeed, because you're naturally more brawny. Every single dice game, Heckin' Good Doggos, Never Going Home, Tenebria, Psychic Kids, they all work that same thing for skills.
Okay.
The cards do something different in every single game. So in Never Going Home, they're your memories, and when you discard them, you narratively describe, which you discard them for all kinds of in-game effects, but you narratively are burning away your own memories of yourself because it's a horrific war escape. So you get to describe like, oh yes, I forgot the taste of birthday cake because I've decided to save myself in this situation. Because war is hell. Is sort of the way that system works. But then in Psychic Kids, it works in a completely different way. The deck is on the table. Every time you want to use your psychic power, you as the player have to use your actual psychic powers to determine the next card on the top of the deck. And this degree of your success determines whether or not your Psychic Kid can activate their own powers in the game.
Oh, wild. Okay.
So it's a completely different use of the cards. It doesn't relate to anything else that the skills that the cards are doing or that the dice are doing, because it's a different game and it's fit to a different purpose.
Okay.
In Heckin' Good Doggos, there's no combat skill. It's all conflict management. And the 4 suits of the cards are the 4 ways that dogs can solve their problems. They can either, try puppy dog eyes, give a friendly lick, bare their teeth, or run away. Basically are the 4 ways that dogs can try and solve problems. And each conflict that you get into can be, the book, the guidelines tell you like whatever it is. Like this problem can be solved with like 3 run away or with 6 friendliness. Like you as a pack of dogs have to come up with 6 hearts in order to befriend the thing, or only 4 clubs to run away.
Right.
Because, and then you're out of conflict with it because you ran away, So again, very different from Never Going Home, very different from Psychic Kids. Some of the designs that we have in development now for things like Fast Cars and Family and Precious Things are pushing the what can you do? You can do anything with cards a little bit further.
Okay.
So that's and to get back to your initial question, why did we develop it that way? It didn't originally start as a system. It started with the rules as for Never Going Home. And the reason why it was D6s and playing cards is because those are things soldiers in World War I would have had access to.
Oh, okay.
They wouldn't have had our first game used percentile dice and D6s. And then we took away the percentile dice because that's not necessarily it's not that like nobody had invented a 10-sided die before, but like it's not something that is easily associated with the soldiers in World War I. So we wanted to make an experiential aspect to it in that way with the dice and the cards.
Wow.
So
okay.
Once we had done that, though, then somebody who worked on one of our adventures was like, I've got a whole game in mind that you could use this system. And we're like, the system? What do you mean the system? And you're like, oh, this dice and cards thing. And so then that was Stephen Wu, who he did Tenebria, which is a Roman Empire themed game, but he was one of our writers for Never Going Home, and he was the first one to sort of like say this could be more than just the system for this game. It could be a system for other settings.
Oh, that's wild. Okay.
Now it's a thing, and we've got 4 out, 1 more in manufacturing, 3 at least more in development that are using the same system. So it has become sort of like our proprietary system that we use for our games. But again, to showcase sort of the potential of like do anything you want with cards.
That's pretty wild. And so your first game, it was a percentile system. Was it a skill based? So you weren't using that kind of +1 mentality, or was there an evolution to it?
It was an evolution. So our first game, Wild Skies, used what we called the compass system, and uh, because it was like set your heading is your like moral compass and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so it had an alignment piece, but the skill rolls were percentile, and there were rankings of like I think for a normal difficulty skill roll, you have to get at least 51% on your percentile dice, but the d6s were there as skill dice, so the more trained you were in a particular skill, you could roll some extra d6s to add some percents to your percentile roll.
Gotcha.
So if you rolled like a 32 on your percentile, like you're probably not gonna make it. But if you rolled like a 45, and you've got 3 skill dice to roll, you could probably roll, a 6 on 3d6 to get you to the 51% that you need.
Okay.
So it was, again, like we've moved from crunchier to less crunchy as we've gone along, as at least I have, as far as like what I prefer to play.
Okay.
But that was the basically the idea of +1 just removes the percentile part of that. Just jettison the percentile roll first, and it's just the skill dice rolling to get the 5. Well, it's different because it's not adding percent. It's 5 and 6. You want to roll 5 and 6 on a d6.
It's really neat though.
But it is an evolution
Yeah.
of the original idea.
It's pretty cool. I love the transition. I like the fact that the idea that the system that you're known for is this serendipitous moment where one of your raiders going, "Hey, can I use this system for another game?" You're like, what system is that? Is that?
Right,
I love
right.
it.
I mean, it didn't have a name. Like if you look at the original, I think our newer books in the line have +1 system as like a logo that's on the back of them, but the first one doesn't, because it's not the +1 system at that point. It's just the way that game works.
That's so cool. And you just keep evolving
the
it.
evolution over the years. Yeah.
How fun is it to come up with different ways to use the cards part of the game?
Well, again, like it's fun. It is fun because I think it is the way that it's developed and I am the creative director of Wet Ink Games, so that means my role is to mostly work with the talent on producing like the manuscript. Brandon, as our business director, is more focused on like the manufacturing stuff.
Gotcha.
We both have conversations about all the things, but like I'm working with directors directly with a lot of the creative talent that we're working with. So like, as far as the fun of it, it's like there's a lot of I'm sitting back and we asked you to use the cards in a new way, and so that's whatever the game designer wants to do, and then I am more responsible for interfacing that with the existing dice rules, which aren't supposed to change.
Okay.
So some people we've called them Brawn, Smarts, and Guts, and that's also the same thing that they were in the compass system. They were Brawn, Smarts, and Guts. Those are the three sort of categories, and it's like sometimes we talk about people like, oh, should we add like spirit as like a fourth attribute? And it's like, then it's not the same. Maybe you could, but then if they want to change it to different names, it's like, well, but then it becomes more different than every other one of the games.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay.
And people are like, I want to do this with the rules, and so I'm coming in with like, well, we did exactly that in this game. Here, let me copy that line of text, and you can replace the proper nouns or whatever to make it fit for your theme. But like, it is less. The answer to the question is I'm doing less of the development of the card stuff, because usually when we're bringing in a designer, that's what either they came with an idea or they're finding an idea, and we're like, the cards are your freedom to do whatever you want as a game designer. My job is to make sure the dice stuff stays with that phrase. The dice are always the same, the cards are always different. So
that's awesome.
How far is somebody allowed to push the system is sort of not exactly a negotiation, but a development between.
You want to make it fit
us as a company and them as a designer.
So I don't want to put you on the spot. That
said, I would love to see more creative uses. Like we've talked about. One thing that I always think is fun is like if the rules are you could do anything with cards. I'm like, great. What game is good? Somebody's going to design a game in which you're constantly destroying the deck of cards, like literally
Yes.
tearing the cards in half and throwing them away. And like, what is that? What are those rules? I would love to see it, right? Because anything with cards is sort of the remit of that half of the +1 system.
Uh-huh.
So we haven't done that yet, but like maybe that design is out there yet.
Just
So you were going to ask.
yeah. Well, like, what is one example? Because of the games that came in, what was like one of these things where you went, you want to do that with the cards? Where you just like were like, whoa.
Uh, I, I don't know if I've had like a total whoa moment. I
Okay.
mean, Psychic Kids, if Psychic Kids happened the other way around, if somebody had come to us with Psychic Kids and be like, I want to do this with the cards, I think that would have been the whoa moment.
Okay.
But they had done a game for the 200-word RPG challenge, which is exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
And it was only the card mechanic. And so
Gotcha.
we reached out to them with like, look, we have a system that uses dice and cards. Would you like to write a 15 to 25,000 word version of this 200-word RPG, which adds in the dice stuff to the card mechanic you've already come up with?
Gotcha.
And that's Michael Brennan, and he said yes, and he did it, and that's a great job. And that book is fun.
I will tell you that the Psychic Kids card mechanic blew my mind.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it was great.
It was really cool.
I mean, the original, I mean, you can still search it up on, 200-word RPG challenge.github or whatever I think it's .github.
Gotcha.
But that's Psychic Children on the Run from Danger was the original version. 200 words just explained like suffice it to say, your children on the run from danger, draw the card when you draw it, when you need to use your psychic powers, and you have relative narrative control based on that. And that was it. That was the only part of the game, because it's a 200-word, write a game in 200 words.
Mm-hmm. When it's a 200-word RPG, you have to have a long title to balance everything out. That was
well, that is one of the tricks of the challenge, is that the title doesn't count. So sometimes people will explain the game, or even begin the rules within the title of the game. It's kind of a trick.
It's always, rules lawyers exist everywhere. King Eric, the greatest of all, would like to know if your games are available commercially in places like Amazon.
If somebody that we sold books to is selling them on Amazon, maybe. I don't know.
You're not doing it directly.
We don't. No, we don't have a.
Get the
like if Noble Knight has some of our stuff, I think they sell at
okay.
They sell through Amazon too. So like
it's possible they will show up on search results.
Yeah,
which is good. So, and this is the thing that drew me to your booth at PAX Unplugged. So, and I was describing to Matthew like my first experience at PAX Unplugged, because it was not only my first game convention, it was my first large crowd since the pandemic. So I would like go in, do my interviews, freak out, and go home. But there was this mobbed booth in the middle of PAX Unplugged, and I'm like, no, and like I'm like, I need to get out, because that was where I was at that moment. It's like later in my interview run, and I was like, no, I need to go talk to these people. And what drew me to the Wet Ink Games booth was this incredible artwork. Just posters and posters and posters. And it was the soldier from Never Going Home. Just absolutely amazing. And as a company, you have made that a priority to have this really cool art, right?
Absolutely.
So, who are some of these cool artists that you work with?
Well, the Never Going Home soldier that you pointed to it behind you, and that's the poster that we have at the booth. That's Charlie Ferguson Avery. He is, and I mean, he owns that look, because this is one of our things. Like that particular game, he developed as an art project before we put rules to it. So
okay,
it is the idea of that look, the gas masks and the sketchy style, and the everybody's mutating into monsters. Like he had done all of that work as an art project, and we asked him like, hey, can we license this art and make a game around it? And he said yes. And then all the subsequent books have been like us commissioning art in the same style,
Okay.
because he developed that look, and it is awesome. And then we've worked with Charlie, and I mentioned the Feral Indie stuff. Charlie and his business partner Alex Coggin are Feral Indie, and they did Into the Weird and Wild and Into the Sesson Citadel, which it's a similar look to that, because it's Charlie's art, and of course with Alex's contributions, Into the Sesson Citadel is them working together, so it has both of their art in it, and some of the pieces are drawn by both of them, and so it looks different than Never Going Home, which is only Charlie, but it's still their creative process. But like, I mean, it is sort of like, again, I've mentioned sort of being like thinking about things in a businessy kind of way a lot of times, and like art will sell a book. Art's job on the cover of a game is to make you pick up the game, stop and look at it, pick it up, and if it does that, then it's done its job. So it's worth it to invest in getting a really good piece of art on your cover to get people to stop and look at it, which is, at least, that's the theory anyway. It seems to be working out for our company.
It sucked me in. I mean, that was fine. So it was good.
I mean,
yeah.
And especially in the case of Never Going Home, like, we're following the art in some cases. And we have Garbage and Glory is another one that is an example of the exact same thing, where the stickers, there were some stickers that Sam Brick had done, and he was selling in his booth at Origins in 2022.
Okay.
And we went, and we're like, I mean, he's got a lot of surrealist landscapes and like sort of not wood, but like art, like screen printing style pictures of nature and stuff like that. And like, we're like, this looks good, but it's not really anything that we could use in a game. And we're like, oh, but what are these? These are raccoons dressed in trash with like, the guy's got the raccoon's got the baklava hat, like pulled down, balaclava, not baklava.
Yeah.
The balaclava pulled down over his head. Okay. And he's got and it's got a broken scissor as like held like two like punching daggers or whatever. And it's like, that's incredible. That's entirely gameable. Like, just, Sam, hello, we're a publishing company. We would like to use these stickers and make a whole game about it. And would you draw another 25 pieces that go with it? And so, and he said yes, and he did. And that book's about to come out. It's out digitally already. But like, the world, I describe it as like trying to catch up. Like, my job because I see the art and that visual connection, that visual experience of seeing it and imagining what it is, and like the curiosity that you want to know more. The job of the text then is to catch up with that initial feeling. And if that is where you're starting from, is that art is amazing, you've already done a lot of work.
Okay.
The artist has already done a lot of work to create that feeling. And then the job is to get a writing team together that can give words that deliver on that imagined process, like, what game is this? And then if the words are fit to that image, you've succeeded in making a game that can make people feel the way that the piece of art makes them feel, and that's, again, it seems I think we're doing it all right, in that respect.
Well, it's interesting because so many people they write the game out first and they're like, okay, let's find art to match this. And you've kind of flipped it's almost like doing a licensed game in some respects, where you have the feel, you have the in certain respects a canon behind it, and now you have to write to match it. It's kind of a cool flip.
Yeah, I mean, it's both and. Like, there's other games, obviously, like when doing Zhongshi, Blood in the Banquet Hall with Banana and Sen. I mean, this is an incredible game, and the art was commissioned, and like, Sen knew Kwanchai Moria, so it was able to make that introduction to the Bananas company and our company, Wet Ink, and like connect us all together. And then like Kwanchai did that cover, and it's amazing, and it is very much fit to the theme of the game. So we have worked in both ways, where it's like, but some of the, if we see a piece of art that really sparks your feeling, like we're not,
Mm-hmm.
we want to catch up to that, but then also like when we've written a cool idea, we want to commission art that gives that feeling to it as well. I think, you know, Psychic Kids, the interior art, I had a very particular idea about what I wanted, and we found an artist, and Sarah M.W. Miller is her name, and she did exactly the vibe that I was hoping for, in a really incredible way, to get the Psychic Kids, their portraits. They're almost like school portraits, very stoic and very, you know, they're slightly uncomfortable in their own bodies because that's being a middle schooler, but also they're psychic and they're like vibrating with energy, and like there's stuff around them that indicates that their powers are sort of active. And so that's a trying to get a vision for the game that matches with the text. And sometimes you have the image already, and sometimes you have the text already, but in both directions, you are trying to make a very engaging and surprising piece of art, or a look to the book, you know, all kinds of stuff that is involved in it, because the words and the art, they go together in such a great way.
There is a symbiosis there. But so, kind of talking about it, you're not locked one way or the other, but your creative impulse is really where the source of these games at all times, which is kind of cool. You would think that a lot of people would want that, and some people are like, oh no, we need to get the money in the coffers, and you're not against that,
Well,
but
I'm not against that.
you're not against that, but you want to be able to actually create something that works with the art, which is really cool. And Mage's Musings points out his comment is, art is super important. Many new games have objectively good art on the technical level. It's just not necessarily evocative. And one of the things that Wet Ink Games does is you have very evocative, particularly that Never Going Home line. The art is evocative to the extreme. Like I said, it drew me completely in, which I loved. I imagine, like, if you're looking at somebody's booth, and he's got stickers that are probably just like, I did these for stickers, and they're a nice inexpensive thing that I can shell to people while I'm there, that I get to make something cool looking. I imagine that when you go, hey, can we use these and make a game out of it? They're like, yeah, sure, because that's a commission and an artist is not going to turn that down. But have you ever had someone kind of look at you and go, like, really? Like, you want to use these? Like, I mean, sure, but really?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, obviously, at a convention, right? I mean, obviously, if you've invested at a booth at a convention, you're there to do business. Direct to consumers, but also, like, you know, there's those moments in between, the downtime when you're not interacting directly with customers. You wander the hall and you go talk to the other producers who are there. And so Brandon and we haven't gotten to recently, but we, especially in those years, in 2021 and 2022, when cons were relatively slow because of the post-COVID period, we would be like, we're just going to go, we're leaving our booth, we're going together to walk down and look at all the artists in this room, because you've got to meet artists and you've got to have art in your books, you know. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but like that's what we've chosen to do. And so, artists are open, as you say, to, like, yes, I would love for you to pay me to draw whatever you want, you know. But, and especially at gaming conventions, like, is where we mostly show up, like, those people are gamers, at least on some level, because they came to a gaming convention, you know. A lot of the people that we talk to have, you know, Magic placemats, you know, or play mats that they've made for their Magic cards, and like they'll have their art on it with dragons or possums or aliens or starscapes or whatever it is, but it's got the areas for you to put your graveyard and your deck and all that kind of stuff, because they know who they're making these mats for. and um, and so like when you walk up, you're like, we're an RPG publishing company. Like, would you like to do 10 pieces of art for this game, or license these 7 pieces of art and make 4 more in the same style for a game? Like they're not. No, I've never run into anybody who is not who's surprised at that, because again, it's sort of the context. Like where we most meet artists is either from other gamers, or artists will come up to the booth at the con and be like, hey, I'm an artist, so like, here's my work, can I be in your books? And we look at portfolios and we talk to people, and like we are building I've got a whole stack of like cards of people, and every time I meet a new artist, I can go back and be like, here they are. Here I met all of these people. They were coming to offer their portfolio to me to look at. So
cool.
No, I've never really met anybody who was not really thinking about it from in-game terms.
Okay. I just thought that would be funny.
Yeah.
There's a little thing like, okay, I mean, of all the things, okay. Because an artist is not going to say no to a commission if they want to, like the people that they're working for. But right. I can imagine somebody who's surprised going, I can't believe that became the game. I mean, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Of all artists everywhere, I mean, maybe there are some that would be surprised, but I think the ones that I usually interact with are,
they're like, cool, let's go.
Gaming conventions. So yeah,
it's awesome. I don't want to keep you too much longer. We have alluded to a couple of the things that have been are in the works for 2025, but we're well into 2025. What can folks expect Wet Ink Games to be releasing soon? We already thought there's one game coming out tomorrow, correct?
Well, it's launching on crowdfunding tomorrow. So
okay,
OMG Cats is we're taking it to crowdfunding. It's the companion book to Heckin' Good Doggos, but it's the game of cats doing cat stuff. You'll play an actual ordinary regular cat, and you'll have it depends on your game mode, but there's a lot of material in there to play just regular mundane adventures. Some the human that you've adopted, that you live with, is late, and you've got to figure out how to get into the tuna cans yourself, because your human is late. That's the kind of game this is. Or you could be in space, or you could be in fantasy realms, or you could be on pulp sci-fi Venus, or there are other settings in the book, but the standard setting for that is just regular old cats doing regular old cat adventures.
And that's crowdfunding tomorrow?
Yeah, that's launching on crowdfunding tomorrow on Kickstarter. OMG Cats, you can search it up, or it's got one of those tiny URLs that don't mean anything, or you can just find it.
I will go and find it. I'll stick it in the description for this interview a little bit later.
Excellent.
So here's my question.
So that's tomorrow.
Well, let me ask you one question about OMG Cats real quick. So in Heckin' Good Doggos, the humans are called the dog's best friend. What do the cats call their humans?
It's a no-tail.
A no-tail.
Yeah, it's a cat, but doesn't have a tail. We don't know why they're so messed up, but they're clearly a cat, but but they have no tail. That's why we have to take care of them. So because they're just so they can't hunt for themselves. They don't have claws. They don't have their tail. They can't communicate well. Their meows sound like gobbledygook. But we love them anyway. We'll take care of them.
I like that. It matches a cat, right? The old saying is, the dog sees a human, they see a god, and a cat sees a human, they see a can opener. So one of those things. All right, so that's the first thing coming out. What else do you have coming out this year?
So in manufacturing right now are the book for Garbage and Glory and the card set for Garbage and Glory, which it has 2 card decks. It's the first of our +1 games to have 2 card decks, because there's Garbage and there's Glory.
Okay.
And Garbage and Glory is raccoons going on quests, epic adventures. I call it a game of I call it a game of dumpster delving. And so it is referencing another game that also has an ampersand in it, but not too closely. It's trying to do its own thing a little bit, but it has what we call callings, which will feel very familiar to people who've played a lot of standard role-playing games, and they fall into, we've got the sticky fingers who likes to hide in the shadows and stab from the Darkness. We've got the Trash Smasher, which has like an obscene amount of brawn, and every one of their abilities are related to fighting. We have the Mess Magus, who has the copy down all the words of Trash Co. and can make stuff happen
Okay.
by mixing certain trash together, so they're very familiar things, and it's sort of, so that book is out digitally now.
Okay.
But it's in manufacturing, so we should have it for con season. That's the one that we met the artist at Origins, so we're kind of planning for Origins in June.
Cool.
To be our big release party for that, because it'll be 3 years since we saw these stickers, and here's the book. And,
wow. How what's that going to retail for the print copy?
I think I don't know, because we're in the midst of reevaluating all of our prices before we go into con season for this year.
I don't know why. Why would you have to do that? I don't understand.
It's just the times, they are changing. It should be $25, I think, for that softcover book. It's
Okay.
only available in softcover, but 25 is what is the estimated price that we'd be charging for it this
Gotcha.
year in retail.
And that's also using +1 system?
Yeah, it's +1. So you've got your skills are like scrap and trick and tame and inflame, and those are all the things you can do on the skill side. And then you're collecting garbage, which you can use to you obviously use it in between sessions to build new weaponry or improve your equipment. But you can also build like quick constructions in play to like, oh, I need a ladder. Okay, that's like going to be 2 hard and 3 soft, and you discard those cards, and then you can build a ladder real quick. And everything you defeat will either give you garbage or glory or both. And so it's the economy of the setting.
Okay, that just sounds fun. I'm in. We're good.
Great.
What
last one.
Go ahead.
The other thing that's in production is Herd, which is a dinosaur-themed card game. You got to protect the herd from predators, and the number one way you do that is you throw smaller prey in their path. It's basically a numbers.
Okay. Oh no, we froze. Hold on. We'll wait. Oh, he faded. We're gonna wait till he comes back.
You faded.
Now we're back.
I don't know.
Well, now you're going again.
Am I totally gone?
We almost made it to the end. We'll wait for a second.
Run. We had such a good long run with no
because
interruptions.
I can't hear you now because you're on the stream, but you're not on the thingamabob. Dang, nabbit. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
It's so weird because I have you in the one thing and not in the other.
Yeah, I can see you and hear you.
I'm going to refresh my page really quick and I'll bring you back. Give me a second.
All right, I'll be here.
Video Ninja. See if we can bring him back. There he is. Enable my stuff. And okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Look at that, came back quick. Okay, good. Nice. So that's Herd. So we're throwing smaller dinosaurs to save us from the bigger dinosaurs?
Right. So if you get the Allosaurus is like a 14, and if you're the herd of Brachiosaurs, maybe you've only got a 10, so you've got to make up that difference. And like, oh look, here's some convenient Hadrosaurs. The Hadrosaurs cards are played, and then the Allosaurs eat the Hadrosaurs, and you're safe. And if they don't, you lose population. And if your population is eliminated, then your dinosaurs don't survive. So you've got to you're trying to keep all the dinosaurs alive, at least all the herds of dinosaurs, like Triceratops, Brachiosaur. So anyway, that is in production as well. It's coming out, and it also is another strong art choice. It's all sepia tones, browns and tans that make it look kind of like, I like to think of it as kind of looking through a lens into the past.
Okay.
So it's not quite clear. Everything's sort of these silhouettes, and it looks pretty neat.
Cool.
But again, fit to the theme. So those are the things we have in production. And then we're doing Free RPG Day as well.
Oh,
so
cool.
I don't think I can tell. I think I'm not allowed to say what it is until it gets announced. But
trying to get my scoop. Darn.
Right. So all of that is happening. And Yeah, that's the biggest things. Like those are the things that we know are coming out this year.
Okay.
Hopefully, Cats will be out by the end of the year because the manuscript is almost already complete.
Gotcha.
And then it's just a matter. I say just right. I mean, it's still a lot of work to put a book together.
Yeah.
But all the pieces are in process. Art is happening. The team is almost done with the book. We're doing adventures.
You had said you had a
that should be out before the end of the
you had
year.
said you had a board game in production, or is that Herd?
Herd is the
board.
yeah.
Okay.
Herd's we're calling it a board game because it comes in a box. Even though I mean, there's a few like tokens and stuff
Okay.
in it, but it's mostly a card game, similar to what we did last year with 0 Day War, which is our first board game.
Uh-huh.
But it's mostly cards, but it has some tokens again, and then you're kind of building a board with the cards, and then
Gotcha.
It's a hacking themed game, but sci-fi settings. So you're hacking into the board to steal the cards, the data off of the board, and then replenishing the system network.
Nice.
So it's ever changing, and
oh, cool.
It's sort of programmed movement a little bit, but not exactly. And you can't anticipate, because you put down a card and the timing of the card that you put down, someone else may steal the card you were aiming for before, and then what do you steal instead? And maybe it's a minus card or nothing, and whatever. It's very hard to know what's going to happen because everybody's trying to steal and manipulate the system at the same time.
That seems very fun. So, I like it. So right. A lot of cool things that are in the works for you. It is convention season coming up. What conventions can folks meet you at?
So we are going to PAX East for the first time.
Oh, neat.
I don't know if I know our booth number off the top of my head, so I can't say that one. But we're going to PAX East for the first time because it's board game and card.
Rats. Everything went kablooey. We'll see if he comes back again. So everybody can still see me, right? Having fun. Oh, he's back.
I'm back.
I don't know what's going on today with OBS Ninja.
Well, we had a nice run in the middle. So
there we go. The bulk of it's good. So you're going to Origins,
Gen Con,
okay,
Gamehole Con, PAX Unplugged, and then new this year for us is PAX East. There might be a local con that we go to if one develops. There's always sort of like, oh, this event is happening. They're smaller cons, so they're planned. You have to book for like Gen Con like last year.
Mm-hmm.
A small con is like, hey, we're going to do it in 3 weeks. Do you want to come? Like, yeah, we'll come.
If
those are sort of planned.
If you haven't heard about it, a Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo is going to be probably twice as big this year, and that's actually a pretty fun con to be at. But I'll see you at Gamehole Con and PAX Unplugged this year.
All right.
Because I actually am going to get to go to Gamehole Con, which I'm kind of excited by that. So
it's a fun con. It's we've been a couple years now, and it's nice because it's pretty chill, but you've got a lot of RPG people are in the room, and so you're not that I don't like board game people, but like if you go to a con like Gen Con, a lot of people are there for board games, not for RPGs. But like Gamehole Con's number one sort of selling point is that it's for RPGs. So
everybody who's been says that's the one that you should go to because they look at my personality type. It's like you will just melt at Gen Con. So it's like there's so many people. What is going on?
It's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Listen, if anybody has any questions for Matt really quick, throw them on chat. Otherwise, we will close this out. We've been on, you've been very gracious in giving me time and dealing with technology issues. I'm really grateful for you to come on. But if you can wait around, I'm just going to sign out. I'm going to put you off screen. You can talk in my ear and say all sorts of weird things while I say goodbye to everybody and give them a couple of heads up of stuff coming up. And then please stay on the line after I shut down because I just want to say goodbye to you properly. But thank you so much for coming on. I had a blast. And I've wanted to have a chat with Wedding Games people for a while now. So I'm glad that I finally got to do it. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back with you. So thank you. All right. Thank you so much, and thank you to Matt for dealing with hiccups for technology, because technology is always haunted. And thank you everybody for being in chat today and saying really cool, fun things. It's been a blast. Coming up again, I got EcclesiaCon here in Palmyra, March 28th through 30th. Going to be an absolute blast. Got a lot going on. There are games galore. We've got a paint and take mini station. Philly Area Gaming Expo sponsored a pizza dinner for that night. We're doing a funnel that folks can be part of on Saturday night, and Saturday evening we are doing a charity auction, because all the proceeds are going to the roof replacement loan for my church, which are there. That's 25% of the proceeds, and then 75% are going to booksmiles.org. Their mission is just to get books into the hands of kids, and it's so cool because one of their biggest sources, they're literally saving these books from landfills so that kids can get into these books and have a love of reading, which is really important for me for many reasons. So if you're able to come out to that, Palmyra, New Jersey, just across the river from Philadelphia, please show up. You can buy a badge at EcclesiaCon.com. After that, I've got my Monty Python game. I am about 2/3 of the way read. Want to get into Tales of Argosa, Never Going Home. I have Project Sunflower and several other games that are coming out. I also have written but need to record my review of Dragonbane's Path of Glory, which is phenomenal. Have so many cool books to read. Looking forward to sharing them all and reading them all and sharing them all with you. This has been a blast. And until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.